Be me. Be 12. Loser and a loner. Don't have many friends or a social life. Best friend and only friend had to move after 6th grade, so I was pretty lonely. Mom tried to get me to make friends because she realized I wasn't a social butterfly. My older sister was, but I was just bad at talking to people. Anyway, 7th grade started and I didn't have any plans to make things better. That was until I met this girl in my 5th period science class. Let's call her Deb. Deb was this cutie 14 emo light-skinned Mexican girl. Typical, I only wear black and listen to punky type of emo. Her parents crossed the border and gave birth to her in the States, but were deported a few months later. Basically raised all her life in a foster family. Deb was just as socially retarded as I was. Whenever we had partner work, we always ended up working together because none of us had friends. First thing she ever said to me was, "So, you a loner too?" I guess something like that. That's cool. I think everyone talks too much anyways. Shouldn't be a surprise that we became best friends within no time. Spent most, if not all, of middle school together. We were inseparable. I always knew Deb had feelings for me more than just being a friend, but I rejected the idea of us being together because it'd be kinda weird. Despite this, we still hung out whenever we could. Eventually, me and Deb made it to high school. That didn't change the fact that we were still social outcasts. In 9th grade, Deb and I went to this construction site and smoked pot for the first time in this underground concrete tunnel. That concrete tunnel became our signature hangout spot to smoke and chill. Sometimes when Deb was high, she would tell me how she felt depressed. Sometimes she would start to cry. She even told me about how she cut herself. I never asked why she was depressed. I thought if she was able to tell me about this, then it would be a good way for her to vent. Always comforting her and held her during this time. She would always thank me for being her friend. Looking back, I probably should have said the same. Me and Deb pretty much smoked and did whatever the heck we wanted until our junior year. One day during summer, I decided I was tired of being a loser. I cleared up all my acne with Proactive, cut my shoulder-length hair, got a gym membership, also worked on how to talk to people and try to be more social and outgoing. I made a lot of friends my junior year. Before I knew it, I was hanging out with the entire group of cool kids. Also managed to get my first girlfriend. But just because I started hanging out with new people doesn't mean I forgot about Deb. I always invited her to hang around with us during school, but Deb just stood out too much. She preferred to hang out with just the two of us. And Deb wasn't looking too good at this point. She wore raggy clothes and just looked unhealthy. She looked like life had just let her down. Despite this, she was still my best friend. One day I was hanging out with my friends and Deb in the hallway when my GF came up and kissed me like usual, except Deb was never around when she did. Suddenly I felt something tug me away from the group of friends. Deb was dragging me by the arm down the hallway. "Anon, why the heck did you kiss her?" Because she's my girlfriend." "But what about us? I thought you were okay with us just being friends." "I thought you loved me." "I do, but Deb, you just act too clingy and kind of like a jerk lately." By this point, she's visibly teary-eyed. She looks angry. By this point, we've caused a scene and a few people are watching us. Friends and GF walk over to watch us. Thought Deb was about to punch me. Instead, she reaches out and tries to kiss me. I shove her back. "What's wrong with you?" "Anon, please just... I think it's best we aren't friends anymore." She looks me in the eyes with her big, brown, teary eyes for about 10 seconds before she walks off. Should mention, me and Deb have been fighting a lot prior to this about our friendship. GF and friends tell me how I made the right decision. Convinced myself I did. Never saw much of Deb after we got in the fight. Sometimes I saw her in the hallway, but we never spoke a word to each other. Friend who had class with her told me she missed almost every day. Soon learned she dropped out for good. Eventually I graduated. By this point I'm 19. Didn't know what to do with my life, so I got a job at the local hardware store. Just until I figured out what I wanted to do. Friends and GF all left for college. Ended up never speaking to any of them again. Ended up all alone again. Whenever I was alone, I would always think of Deb. Sometimes after work, I would walk to the concrete tunnel we would used to hang out in, and I would just sit there. But she was never there. Thought she just disappeared off the face of the planet Earth. One day, I'm feeling particularly down. Skip work and walk to the concrete tunnel. When I got there, there was this homeless person sitting inside the tunnel. Just about to walk back home when I heard someone's voice. Anon? I look over and see Deb staring at me in the eyes. I just walk over and pull her to her feet. Gave her the longest and biggest hug I could. Didn't say a word to each other, but I could hear her sobbing. I was crying too. Deb looked horrible. Her clothes were torn and dirty. She was tiny and looked like she hadn't eaten in weeks. When I saw her arms, I could tell by all the rashes she had been doing drugs. Jesus Christ, Deb got JPEG. Told her we were going back to my house. When I got to my house, my mom was out of town. I gave Deb a towel and told her to take a shower. She gave me her dirty clothes, but I just threw them away because they weren't salvageable. She came out 40 minutes later. She looked like the Deb I used to know. I gave her some of my clothes, and we went downstairs and ate spaghetti while watching TV. She didn't say anything the entire time. Eventually, we went upstairs and she asked where she was going to sleep. I offered my bed and I would sleep in the guest room. Went to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, she was in my bed wrapped around me. When I got out of bed, I drove to McDonald's to get us some breakfast. When I got back, she was still sleeping. I woke her up and we went downstairs to eat. After we finished, I asked her what happened. She told me how she was bullied and eventually she just dropped out. She said people would call her Anon's plaything and some other stupid crap. I had no idea about any of this. Told me foster parents kicked her out when they found out she was smoking pot. They were super religious Republican assholes. She had to live off what little money she had. When she was homeless, she got into harder drugs. She said that she's been homeless for 2.5 months. I told her that she could stay with me until she gets back on her feet. Tell her to promise me she'll stay clean. She promises. I talked to my boss at the hardware store and I managed to get Deb a job as a cashier. Mom was cool with Deb staying as long as she helped out around the house. Whenever me and Deb had free time, we sat on my bed talking and joking like we used to. Sometimes we would just talk and walk around the woods near our house. Every Friday after work, Deb and I would just buy fast food and go to the concrete tunnel where we used to hang out to eat and listen to music. I felt like a 9th grader again, because I had my Deb back. Things were good at this point. Me and Deb worked together and she stayed clean. After 4 months, Deb was able to rent a cheap apartment by my neighborhood. I helped her move her clothes and some old furniture we had into her apartment. I gave Deb half my paycheck to help with everything she needs. It was all good. Fast forward until maybe a month. Deb didn't show up to work one day. She didn't even call in sick. Didn't think much of it. Eventually she missed 4 days. I was pissed, obviously. Whenever I went to her apartment, she was never there or didn't answer. Neither of us could afford a phone, so I couldn't call her. Worried and pissed at the same time. Boss tells me she's fired. Now I'm just pissed. She shows up 2 whole weeks after missing her first day. She stumbles a few feet in the front door before I grab her and pull her back outside. She's obviously on something. Where are you going? I'm going to work, silly. You don't have a job. You haven't been here for 2 weeks. What? I've only missed like 3 days, Anon. You need to leave. Not before I collect my paycheck, Anon. I grab her and throw her in my truck. She doesn't fight back. Because she's too screwed up, I assume. Drive her back to her place and help her in her apartment. When I open the apartment door, it looks like something from a movie. Trash was lying everywhere. Furniture flipped and the TV left on. Roaches were crawling anywhere where food had been left out for probably about a week. See baggie with rocks in it sitting on the kitchen cabinet. Grab it and flush it down the toilet. When I finished, Deb was already passed out on the floor next to the door. Get a piece of paper from my truck and write to come get me when she's ready to clean up. Lock the door and go back to work. Fast forward a week. Just finished my shift and heading home. When I pull up to my house, I see Deb sitting on the front porch. She comes to my truck and says she's ready to stop. She says I can drive us to her apartment and we can talk while she cooks. I'm kinda pissed off, but I drive us back to her place anyways. When we get to her apartment, everything has been cleaned up. Wasn't exactly homey though, but much better than before. I sit on the sofa and watch some action movie on Spike while she cooks pasta. When we sit down to eat, I don't say anything because I was still pissed. She breaks the silence halfway through our meal. Anon, I do the things I do because they help take away the pain I feel, but only temporarily. I have mixed emotions at that point. Deb, I don't know what's going on in your head, but I can promise you that I love you no matter what. It really does break my heart when I see you messed up. You can barely tell if it's me or a stranger bringing you back to your house. She drops her fork and starts to cry. I'm so sorry, Anon. I'm so sorry what I did to you. I'm getting a little choked up at this point. It's hard seeing the person you loved most destroying themselves. We get up, hug it out for about 5 minutes, just start crying onto each other. Afterwards, we sit down and cuddle on the sofa while watching a bad movie on Spike until 2 a.m. when I had to go home. Tell her I have work tomorrow. We get up and I hug her goodbye at the door. Tell her I'll talk to our boss about rehiring her. But before I leave, I just look into her eyes. A sudden feeling I've never had comes over me. I just reach out and kiss her. She grabs my head and I grab her waist. Probably make out at the door for like 10 minutes. We woke up the next morning and the first thing she says is, I've waited since sophomore year for that. We both laugh and cuddle until I have to go to work. When I finish my shift at work, I ask to sit down with my boss, tell her Deb and how she could be considered, tell her about Deb and how she could maybe be reconsidered for hiring her again. Boss is cool and realizes Deb has problems, but if she changed them, she can come back first thing next Monday for her old position. Fast forward 4 months, me and Deb had our ups and downs. We weren't a couple, and when I told Deb I didn't want a relationship, she was disappointed, but we still loved each other nonetheless. I was happy, and as far as I could tell, so was Deb. By this point, Deb managed to stay clean and get her job. So proud.jpg. One Friday after work, I decided it would be a good idea to surprise her at her house with drinks. Deb was a drug addict, but not an alcoholic. Yeah, I know alcohol is a drug, but you know what I mean. Deb finished her shift earlier than me. When I finished my shift, it was about 7:30. Get in my truck and drive to her apartment. Get to her apartment and see her door wide open. Walk in and the first thing I see is empty baggie on the kitchen table. Sip bottle of vodka on table. Start running around the apartment looking for Deb. Find her sitting in the bathtub. She looks up at me. Anon, I swear I'm not on drugs. I'm just tired, you know? I'm freaking furious. I'm so furious. Drag her from the tub and sit her in the chair in the kitchen table. Yell at her if everything we did was just a joke. No, Anon, I really appreciated everything you did. But my life sucks, and I thought it would get better, but it hasn't. Then why haven't you killed yourself, Deb? You think I haven't tried before? After you left me in high school, after everything I've done, I'm so messed up, Anon. We both know that. I'm so mad I'm pacing back and forth between the kitchen and living room when I see a gun laying on the kitchen stovetop. Were you gonna shoot yourself? Only if things got out of control. Like they are now? No, Anon, everything's fine. It's been much worse. I slammed the gun on the table. Then just do it already. Do it. Just do it already. Do it. I'll be done cleaning up after this stuff and you useless junkie. Oh, I hate you, Anon. Anon, I hate you. I never asked for any of this. All I wanted was you. But all you had to do was push me away when I needed you the most. I sit down on the table and start drinking from the bottle of vodka, thinking of how to handle this. I hear the bathroom door shut, and it really bothers me to type this next part. Next thing I heard was a gunshot and something hit the floor. I'm frozen, can't feel anything. I just sit there, staring at the wall for a good hour. After what feels like hours, I get up and just start sobbing like a baby. Walk out the front door and I just started walking anywhere I could go. I don't remember what I did. I don't remember where I walked all that night, but when I woke up the next morning, I was in the tunnel where me and Deb used to hang out. The end. Hey guys, it's me, Kugirea. This is my first time ever reading something like this. Also, it sounds pretty weird with the horrible grammar, so I had to improv a lot of it, and, that works out like how it works out. It was a pretty fun experience, and I might do some more of these, but it actually takes a really long time to make these, believe it or not, recording all the audio and all that stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a fun day. Peace out.